All right. Hi, everyone. I am trying to find the best light. Hi. I am out in my garden because I wanted to give a real life example of how to look at your experiences and your stories. Um, so I think I mentioned I am, really trying to be a gardener, trying to grow my own food. I really do love it. It's a hobby of mine, actually, but I have learned so much. I actually took a little course just like what this looks like. It was something that was online and to help me understand how to grow my own food. So I just wanted to give kind of a real life example of what this looks like in building your stories and experiences. Um, so let's say you were, looking at a job or looking to get into an experience that required, some kind of growing your own food, gardening, that type of stuff. Lots of environmental science and different types of jobs out there that are like that. But let's say we're just kind of imagining that we're looking at a job like that. So this is kind of how I would understand what are the types of experiences to put on a resume. So, um, I always like to talk. I'm sorry, I know the lighting's a little bit poor here, but we're gonna get through that. Um, I always like to talk about experiences as we don't always know. Hire managers don't always know whether you've done something well or not, right? So when we just throw something on a resume, like I grew potatoes, that doesn't mean I was really good at growing potatoes. That just means I grew them and I tried. So that's not to diminish the experience you have. That's to say it's so important to describe the experience that you had in a way that helps hiring managers know that you are the obvious choice because you have the experience. So I'm going to give an example of something that I've done well in this space and something that I've not done very well in this space. And we can talk about how to represent both on a resume. So back to imagining a role or a job that really that's looking, it's aligning with my skill set, right? I've learned a lot about my growing food, and this is kind of where we're at. Um, so I am actually going to be looking at, um, I'm going to look at these tomatoes over here. All right. So if we can kind of come down and see, these are my tomatoes. They're, whoop, look at that. Big, small, whatever that looks like. So when I first started growing tomatoes, I grew them just straight in the ground, put some wire racks up. Perfect, right? No big deal. Was pretty successful. But um, actually ended up having some disease on the tomatoes. And so my experience was like, okay, like I did okay with it, but what can I do better? What can I do different next time? And so it's through some research, through understanding more, and some of you might already know this, so you're probably going, come on, Ashley. But learned and wanted to grow tomatoes upwards, which I don't know if you can see this, but I have a wire fence that goes up and down. It's probably 6 feet tall. Did not do this last year. And so my experience taught me that what we really needed to do was, if you look down here, see those stems? We pulled out the actual leaves down there to help prevent disease that might be down on the soil bouncing up into the tomatoes. And so, um, and so, what has actually happened is we have had bigger and better tomatoes than ever before, because I think just having them grow up in general has been a better experience anyway. They're larger, they're bigger, and we've got more tomatoes on the vine than ever before. And so this would be an experience where I would actually talk about the success of this experience. And so what did I do? And I'm just going to put this bullet point together real quickly here, but like I grew, um, you know, successfully or grew successful tomato plants. How did I do it? By using a new vertical growing method, right? That's the how did I do it? And the results were, 10% or maybe even 20, 25% more yield on tomato that grew out of the garden. And so you could see I would kind of throw that on a paper and then I would go back and draft in a draft form and redo that bullet point to kind of make it sound a little bit more professional than just kind of how it came out of my mouth. But that was the story, right? That came out of that experience. Okay, so I'm sorry. I know the light and the sun's coming in a different way, so I'm gonna come actually over through um, through the garden. I'm gonna come over here because I want to talk about something. Ooh, I know I have a few uh, sonar. I don't know if you can hear that or not, but anyway, we got some sonar going on in the back. Those sounds. So here's something that I haven't done that well. You can totally laugh at me. I laugh at me all the time. So this corn, I've got corn here. I'm not very good at growing corn. But what what ended up happening was, I don't know. This corn looks pretty good, but I do not know what happened. I'm very very honest with you, but these little tiny corns here, maybe some of you will know. Look at that bee. He's pollinating right now. Love him. Um, I am not really sure what happened to this corn, but it didn't grow. Not like this corn in the back. So I don't know if it has to do with the water. I really don't know. So the way that I was talking about the tomatoes, this is something that I might not put on the resume at this time because I just don't know what my experience is yet. I'm not really comfortable with what this experience will look like. I'm sure that I will be successful. I don't know how yet. So I don't really know the how. And the outcome right now is that, I've kind of got some great corn over here, but this corn over here, I just don't know why. This is not, man, there's so many bees over here. I'm sorry, I'm getting distracted, but again, feel free to laugh at me. But this is not growing so high. So maybe some of you know why my corn isn't growing that high. But the point is that that might be something that instead of putting that on your resume as a highlights reel, because, instead of saying I grew corn, again, my hiring managers might not know how well you did that. But instead of throwing that on there, it might make more sense to keep that as what I call a back pocket story. And so these are stories that you can use when networking with people or maybe in an interview. So these aren't things that you necessarily want people to see right up front, not because it's not good experience, but because you just haven't developed that story well enough yet to throw it onto a highlights reel. But let's say I'm in an interview and I'm asked, tell me about a time when you made a mistake, or tell me about a time when tell me about your weaknesses. Some of those questions, as we all know, we get those questions and those are hard questions to answer. Don't think of it as here are all the things I've done wrong. Think of it as what am I still experiencing that I can talk about, right? So last year, I actually, again, feel free to laugh at me, poured some fertilizer on the corn, but I actually poured it on the corn, not at the soil where the and it not where the on the soil where the stalks would have grabbed those nutrients. Poured it on the corn, the leaves, right, and killed them. Right, like it just didn't work out very well. So I could talk about that. I could say, hey, I had this experience. I was really excited to grow corn. I had all the seeds in the ground. Everything was growing well. And then I threw that on there and it was a mistake, but I only learned it was a mistake kind of after acknowledging what had happened with the corn once that fertilizer got on. And so, I could talk about that experience as a way that I've learned. What I did differently next time, right, was I researched it a little bit more. I asked around, I asked for help. I asked some really important questions about how to grow the corn and ended up, learning even more about it. And now I'm even this year more successful in corn, even though it looks like I'm not. One day, maybe I'll get there. So just wanted to kind of walk through an experience that, to kind of visualize and think about how to actually think about yourself, right? Your resume is about you. It's not just some words on a paper to help a hiring manager pick you. It really is a reflection of your work, your experiences, whether you think they're positive or not. Well, I like to call it uncomfortable or comfortableness, so whether you're comfortable with the experience or not comfortable with it, either way, it's all part of your story. And this is about telling your story. So I hope that this helped. Totally an optional video, kind of an insight into my life, and have a really good rest of your day.